Last night, the Game of Thrones finale. We're going to do this off the top here. The Game of Thrones finale happens last night. And this has been, I think it's fair to say, this has been a divisive season amongst people. A lot of people really not liking what they've been seeing. A lot of people really like it. Even in this room, there's some division on that. I've really liked this season. Bunch of people have. A couple of you guys have not liked this season. Bunch of people haven't. But it came to a conclusion last night with, I'm sure, were probably HBO's biggest ratings numbers in their history. By the way, I don't know if you saw Seth, who's the guy who used to be on Saturday Night Live, now he does Seth
Meyers?
Meyers, yeah. Thank you. Seth Meyers had this great thing. He goes, of course, the Game of Thrones series finale ends tonight. Many people are asking who will die. Probably HBO, which is not surprising that, you know how they normally end their episode with Benioff and Weiss doing a little bit of a recap? Instead of doing that, they just showed 3 trailers of their upcoming series. Basically, HBO going, please don't cancel tomorrow. We still have things coming. But at any rate, they do the finale last night. Here's my general quick impression. Of it. It's tough, even for the best of shows, to do good series finales. It seems like series finales are cursed. Even some of the greatest shows of all time. Seinfeld. Terrible series finale. Cheers, I didn't like the series finale. One of my all-time favorite shows, Sons of Anarchy. Not a great series finale. My all-time favorite show, Battlestar Galactica. Rob, you did like the series finale of that. I do. But even though it's my all-time favorite show, I did not like the series finale of that. I thought this was a pretty decent series finale. Wasn't in love with it, though. And here's what I said to Rob a little bit earlier. I said, to me, I love all the points they hit. I did. I loved the Tyrion stuff. I loved Tyrion talking to Jon speech. That was epic stuff, by the way. I love the Tyrion speech to the council at the end. I like how Dany died. All this. By the way, I should give you a warning. We're going to talk about Game of Thrones here, folks. If you haven't seen the episode last night, you might want to tune out for a few minutes. But it was on television. Everybody could see it last night. I liked how it ended. I liked the epilogue, all of that. But Rob, one of the things I was saying to you going into this final episode of Game of Thrones, and by the way, this image here, God, I love this image. I thought that was amazing in the show. But my fear going into the final episode, I remember you and I were talking about this after the last episode. I'm like, okay, but we still have to find out what happens with this and what happens with this, and then they got to do an epilogue and blah, blah, blah. And there's just one episode left. I'm afraid that regardless of what they do in that final episode, it is going to feel pedal to the metal rushed. And while I liked the episode, and I liked all the points they hit, and I feel very satisfied, to me, again, it just felt like this is something that should have transpired over 2 or 3 full episodes. I still cannot imagine why, and there's just no justification to me about cutting out 7 episodes from seasons 7 and 8. HBO wanted 10 episodes. HBO was going to give them the money to do it. They were going to give them all the time in the world to do it. They decided not to do it. And I really felt it. I felt it a little bit through this whole season. Even though I've loved the season, I felt it a little bit through the whole season. I really felt it last night, despite the fact that I like everything that they did for the most part. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to sit down and watch the Game of Thrones finale. What did you think about it?
Well, I felt like you did. I mean, I enjoyed everything that was there, but it just seemed like, you know, every character got one little snippet of a scene, and I loved Game of Thrones for so long because I liked all the character interplay. Yeah. I liked how all of the battles between people in rooms and behind closed doors would then erupt in episode 9 of the season. And like you, I really think they could have used 2 10-episode seasons. But the way they had structured the show, all this stuff goes down in episode 9, the big battles occur. Then in episode 10, the more significant interpersonal stuff happens, and I liked that structure, and I really felt season 6 was the last time we got it. You had the Battle of the Bastards, and then you had Cersei wrecking shop with the High Sept and all that. I loved all that, and both of these seasons, they could have ended season 7 with the White Walkers, and then spent the entire season dealing with Winterfell and Winterfell marching on King's Landing and teaming up with Dany, and what were they going to do? And it all was so fast. And I didn't feel it like I used to I would internalize Game of Thrones episodes. You know, I would internalize the whole, when the season would end, episode 9 and 10, I'd be like, my God, I felt something. I just went through something. This, I felt like I was watching something as opposed to going through it.
Again, I thought it was great, but there's this scene happens that you and I both really like between Tyrion and Jon, with that conversation, which I thought Tyrion's speech to him was one of the highlights of the entire series.
Oh,
but
no doubt.
Between that, like in another season of Game of Thrones, between that conversation and then Jon going to talk to Dany, should have been an episode and a half of Jon wrestling with it, going through the ups and downs of what does it mean to do this or what does it mean to do that. But instead, we went right from that conversation to, okay, walk across the hall, knock, knock, hi, Dany, stab. I mean, it felt like in previous seasons that would have been fleshed out a lot more. Again, I like the point A and I like the point B. I just felt there could have been a lot more flesh in between of those things,
Well, I agree with you 100% because here they're going to decide the fate of a shattered Westeros at the end. I would like to have seen the build up to that council with everybody talking about a little bit of scheming going on, what they're going to carve out for each other.
But they were just there.
They're just there, and you don't even see like suddenly weeks have gone by. Oh, we get it. Oh, Tyrion's not wearing it. He's been incarcerated for weeks, and normally they would have spent like at least an episode with everybody going to this council talking about what they hope to get, what they hope to achieve. They have to pick a new king. They would have ended an episode with who are they going to pick, and it would have drawn us in, and it would have been a suspenseful thing. We wouldn't have known, and there would have been back channels and stabbing and this, that, and the other thing, and people would have been positioning themselves. And Yara Greyjoy would have been doing something more than she was doing. She was just there.
Yeah, that time jump seemed totally out of place for Game of Thrones. When all of a sudden I was like,
a little awkward.
Everyone was like, wait, Tyrion has, like, people were actually debating for a second. I was like, no, he's got a full grown beard now. Like, there was a big time jump. And everyone was like, yeah, well, that's probably because they couldn't decide what to do. Like, if they caught Jon in that moment. Also, is Jon so honest that he just said, I did it? I mean, she got swept away from a dragon. Like, why didn't he just say, like, not my fault?
Dany said she had to go do something with Drogon, and she'll be back in a few months.
Yeah,
but that's not him.
I know, I guess.
That's not him.
I mean, he did come down and destroy the Iron Throne. It wasn't a leap that something happened.
Yeah, exactly. Which like I was saying earlier, like the dragon, like if he just spit out fire and the Iron Throne went down, that would have made sense to me. But the fact that he sees Dany and then is like, that throne symbolizes why my queen just died or my mother just died. I was like, that dragon's a little too smart, but
he's smart, but
a little too conscious.
I was telling you guys a little bit earlier. I swear to God, and I did not want this to happen, but I was like, I was half expecting after he burns the throne to raise his head up, look down at Jon, and talk. I thought we were going to have a Smaug moment.
Oh, God.
And I'm so glad they didn't. There were 3 things in this episode I was afraid was going to happen, and none of them did. One, I thought the dragon was going to talk to him. So I'm like, okay, phew, that didn't happen. Second thing, when Tyrion goes down and sees Jaime's arm hanging out, I was expecting out of the rubble another hand. Like, I'm alive. I'm like, please don't do that. And then when Jon is approaching to go talk to Dany, and the dragon is like sleeping under all the soot, I have expected the Mountain and the Hound to get up out of the rubble like that. When they first started to stir, like when you saw the scope of the stir, you realize, because that's not it. When it started to stir, I'm like, oh, please don't be the Hound and the Mountain coming up. Thankfully, they didn't do that either. But yeah, again, I like everything they did. I just think it should have been paced out more for a finale. But again, as a guy who has so many of my all-time favorite shows have terrible series finales, even though they're my all-time favorite shows, I walk away. Look, it's no Star Trek The Next Generation, All Good Things. Nothing will ever touch that as a series finale, in my opinion. But I still thought it was pretty good. Probably my least favorite episode of the season, though, because unlike a lot of people, I'll tell you what, I like this season so much. Game of Thrones has never been in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. It is now. It's in my number 4 spot.
Well,
but
Peter Dinklage, man, that guy was the MVP last night from finding Cersei and Jaime. His reaction, his conversation with Jon, when he gives the speech to the council.
Saving grace of that that episode.
Yeah, the mirth-filled comedy antics around the small table with Bronn gets his castle, and
great.
Everybody has
it felt so much like season 1 again. And Sam is the maester and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
I should mention this, though. I should mention this, guys. They did it again. People, now, again, watching the show, I noticed nothing. Watching the show, much like the coffee cup scene. But apparently they did it again. Because in that final council scene, if you look close behind Sam's foot, hey, what is that there behind Sam's foot? I can't. Oh, look at that. It's a water bottle. Yet again, they forgot another thing on set. And again, it's not so egregious. Like with the coffee cup scene, I was like, oh my God, just because the color scheme of the coffee cup, I thought it totally blended in, so I never noticed it. And then somebody pointed out, and you're like, oh my God. Again, this scene came and went. And again, it's just the little edge of it is sticking out, so I never noticed it watching the show. But clearly people did. And clearly, again, something they should have caught. And I can't believe they didn't. But anyway, let me ask the two of you guys this question. Because Ann and I, we did our post-Game of Thrones show last night, and we asked ourselves this question. I want to ask it to you guys. MVP time. MVP awards. Number 1, who is the MVP of the season? Number 2, who is the MVP of the finale? And I'll tell you what my answer to that was. My answer was the MVP of the season was probably Arya Stark. I thought more than anything, she took center stage and did a lot. And I think Maisie Williams may be up for an Emmy Award for this season, to be honest with you. I thought the MVP of the finale, and I'm going to steal your thunder a bit, Rox, I know you already said this, but Tyrion was the MVP of the finale, which I was so glad to see. Like, he's been my favorite character in the show the whole time. I would have been okay if he ended up on the throne. But they made a good case about why he shouldn't. So for me, it's Arya Stark and Tyrion. Those are my 2 MVPs for the season and for the finale. Rob, what about you?
You know what? I'm gonna have to. I'll go with you on that. I think both. You're right. I mean, they leaned heavily into Arya Stark this season. I thought she was terrific. As a matter of fact, I expected to hear "Into the West." Annie Lennox is Into the West. I even went on Twitter and I said, "How long until somebody makes an Arya Stark video Into the West that begins with her sailing off?" You know, with Annie Lennox's voice. So I really thought she was great, but. I think my favorite moment was Bran who said, "Tyrion, you're going to be Hand of the King." And
right.
It's just because you think of it, he was Joffrey's hand. He was Daenerys' hand. Like the last place he wants to be, but pretty much the place he does want to be. It's just there was like something poetic about that, and I'm glad he didn't die.
Mm-hmm. And I love the line again. Bran. We were talking about this beforehand. Bran had so few lines this season, but every time he spoke, it was knocking it out of the park. And it's like, I don't want it, and I don't want to be king, and yet here we are. I thought the best line though was when he's like, "So will you accept being king? Why do you think I came all this way?"
Yeah.
It's like I'm a boss. Anyway, I like that. Let me ask you, Ashley, MVP of the season, MVP of the episode.
Well, I was gonna probably agree with you, but I'll go. I really loved Sansa also in this.
She was great.
I would say season. I'll go Sansa. Also in the episode when she's like, "Sit down, Uncle." I love that part. and she's like, "Yeah, sit down. You should just shut up now." And then
who was that guy?
I don't even. It was random.
I think wasn't he a Frey? Wasn't he like the last of the Freys or something like that?
Was that who that was?
Yeah.
I thought I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about that. I also didn't realize who the kid was. Like. That's the kid who was sucking on his mommy's tight till he was 12.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was him, and they got the same actor.
I like that they brought him back, though.
I agree. I thought that was great.
He's Lord of the Vale now, I guess.
They brought all those people in. So I'm sorry, your MVP of the episode, Ashley?
Okay, so yeah, season I would say Sansa. Episode I would go Tyrion.
Yeah, across the board Tyrion, and like the way it ended up, and I love that Sam ended up as Maester. I really did like that. And how great was that moment?
Democracy
when he stands up,
moment. Yeah.
If the king is to rule everyone should have a say. Pause, and everybody starts laughing at him.
I'm really glad that didn't happen, though. I was like,
too.
are they going to make this like? I was like, is this the rise of democracy right now? I really don't want to see this.
Yeah. So anyway, like that a lot. So anyway, Game of Thrones is going to go down as one of the all-time most epic television shows. The final season is going to go down, being known as pretty divisive. I was one of the people who really liked it. A lot of other people didn't for their own reasons, and that's all cool too. But now HBO and the rest of us have to look forward to a non-Game of Thrones world as we move forward.